What's up YouTube, Capital G here, looking at a brand new FloodGate card coming out of Collector's Pack 17 and the OCG. This is called Slow Life, and I really like the design of this card. I understand where Konami is trying to go with this card. I just think that it's coming a little too late to really be a huge, impactful card on the meta. So first thing I did notice is I actually like the artwork. I don't know about you guys, I find the artwork to be very relaxing, and I just actually noticed it as I was about to review this card. I was like, is it me, or that is totally the guard from the Forceful Century? And I went ahead and I looked up the Forceful Century. That is the same guy. Don't you guys try to tell me that that is not the same guard. And I like this art because it reminds me of like myself on a Sunday afternoon where you're just like lazy, you're just kicking back and relaxing. So anyways, it's a FloodGate. Let's go ahead and look at what it does. It's called Slow Life. It's a continuous spell card. Activates if you control no monsters at the start of your main phase 1. So it's conditional. I don't think that condition is actually that hard to meet, especially in a couple of decks I'll talk about later. Let's see, the effect is apply the following effects. If a player normal summons or sets a monster or monsters, that player cannot special summon monsters during that turn. If a player special summons a monster or monsters, that player cannot normal summon or set monsters that turn. So to me, this card is extremely similar to something like Lose One Turn. It's a FloodGate that is completely trying to slow the pace of Yu-Gi-Oh! Down. It's trying to slow the duel down without completely like destroying what your opponent wants to do. And when I say that, let's just compare like Lose One Turn to Vanity's Emptiness. If you flip over Vanity's Emptiness against Necroz, they don't have the ability to ritual summon at all. They can't even do what their deck was designed to do. Actually, you could, I mean, basically say that about any deck that's revolving around the extra deck or any ritual deck. But if you activate Lose One Turn, they can still special summon their ritual monsters. They'll just be a little slower. Same thing kind of goes with this. You can normal summon a bunch if you have like double summon or something like that. You're just not going to be going into your extra deck that turn, or you can still special summon, go YOLO, but you won't get your normal summon that turn. So I do think this card is inherently fair, especially considering the activation condition. I just look at it and I think, man, Konami, where the fuck was this card, you know, in the past? Like, if they would have released this at the beginning of like the Arc V era 3 years ago, this card would have been insane. It would have made such a huge impact on the meta. Could you imagine this against like Serteller Knights? This card would completely wreck them. I mean, you basically have to special and normal and Serteller Knights in the same turn because you wouldn't be able to resolve Altier or Deneb. Like, this card would completely screw over those cards. You look at it against Shadows. If they Shadow Fusion, then they can't set that turn. You look at it against a deck like Cleaford. I mean, yeah, they could still Pendulum Summon, but they wouldn't have been able to Tribute Summon, which is what Clees are, you know, pretty much made to do. So if this card would have came out during Durance Alliance era, like, it would have been so good. But I don't know, man. I see a lot of decks that are meta right now that are able to get around this. And I don't know, obviously, when this card comes to the TCG, what will be meta. But if you look at a deck like Zodiac, because of Barrage still being at 3, and because they have Terratop, like, they can easily not normal summon and still completely pop off. Especially if they open with, like, Barrage plus Instant Fusion, you know they're going ham. You look at a deck like Metaphors. Obviously, it's based around pendulum summoning, so they can just kind of mass pendulum summon, and then they can continue to like fusion summon and get to their monsters. Or even if you look at Paleozoics, all they need to do is special a Swap Frog. The only thing that deck even really normals is Swap Frog, so if they can special it, I think they're okay, especially considering they bring all their Paleozoics back from special summons, and Rodent Totem is a special summon, and when they get the Totally Awesome, that's basically where they want to go. So I do feel like this card is just, it's a great card. I just feel like it's coming out at a wrong time because I feel like it's kind of slow. If it would have been a trap, that would have been a little better because then you would have been able to like do all your shenanigans, maybe go YOLO, and if you summoned into like a Torrential or a Solemn or something like that, you flip this over during your opponent's turn and bam, they're locked or something like that. Although I will say this, even though this card is coming out at a time where I do feel like a lot of decks can kind of play around it, I'm saying that because I feel like Special Summon is so far ahead of Normal Summon. Like, it's never really been balanced to me, the fact that you can do, you know, 700 Special Summons and you only get 1 Normal. So I was like, what the fuck is that? The decks that are predicated on Special Summoning have so much of an advantage. It would have been cool if it only permitted like 1 Special Summon. Then this would have been like, oh my god, this shit is broken. But I do think that this card does have a home. I think that this card is extremely good in a deck like Yosenju because number one, since your Yosenju monsters all bounce to your hand anyways, it's not like you're going to have monsters on the field to begin with, and that deck doesn't really use special summoning at all. And I think that this could be useful in Infernoids too. Infernoids don't really play defense all that well, and you don't need the normal summon at all in that deck. The only normal summons you really play are things like Fairy Tail Snow and Infernoid Decatron, and let's be real, you can summon Fairy Tail Snow from the graveyard, and you can 1-for-1 Decatron, you can Void Feast it, so you can get Decatron out without having the normal summon. And if you have monsters on the field, you can just, you know, you can use their DD Crows effects so that you can activate this card. Like, your Infernoids can kind of get off the board whenever they want during your opponent's turn, so you always can kind of have an empty field unless it's like a Fairy Tail Snow. Overall, I think that this card is still pretty good. You know, you could probably play it in like barrier statues too, because if you have this card up, you're slowing your opponent down. If you don't, you should probably have a barrier statue up and you're slowing your opponent down. So again, I like the design of this. I think most people would say that this is more of a fair Floodgate. It still lets your opponent do what they want to do. It just slows them down. And I think cards like that are inherently a lot more fair than cards like Vanities or something like, well, I thought Skill Drain, but I don't want to talk bad about Skill Drain. It's my favorite Floodgate of all time. Let's say Imperial Order. I feel like us hating on that is fine. Don't hate on Skill Drain. Anyways, let me know what you guys think. Thank you guys for watching. As always, subscribe if you have not already.